Welcome to a new video tutorial. Today I'll guide you on how to remove backgrounds from images you made with illustrateai using Adobe Photoshop. On the left, you can see the prompt I used, including the art style, image count, ratio, and negative prompt. I created an image with a basic background. It doesn't always provide a clear background, but this time it turned out quite well. Open the image in Photoshop. Since we have a distinct separation between the subject and background, we can use the Object Selection tool. This tool allows you to easily select specific objects or sections of an image either by drawing a rectangle around them or simply by clicking on the desired object. As you can see, we now have a selection around the tulip. To remove the selection, you can go to the Select menu and choose Deselect or simply use the shortcut Ctrl+D. Click once on the flower to bring back our selection. Then, head to the bottom right and click on the layer mask icon. It resembles a rectangle with a circle in the center. Now the background is transparent. Let's add a solid color background to see how the subject looks against various backgrounds. Move the background layer below the flower layer and experiment with different colors to see how it looks against various background colors. If I zoom in using the shortcut Ctrl+, you'll notice that on darker background colors, there's a slight white outline around the flower, about 1 pixel wide. Select the layer mask, then right-click and choose Apply Layer Mask from the list. This action applies the layer mask, leaving you with just the flower and no background. Remember, once you've applied the mask, you can't make further adjustments to it. Now, head to the Layer menu, look towards the bottom for the Matting option, and then select Remove White Matte. This feature helps get rid of white edges or halos that might appear around objects after positioning them on a different background, particularly if the object was initially on a white background. Let's undo that. I want to show you another method that's effective. Go to Layers, then Matting, and select Defringe. Input a value of 1 pixel and click OK. You'll notice it effectively removes that slight white edge. Let's delete the color background layer. Now, as you observe, we have our flower with a transparent background, ready to be used in various projects. Proceed to File, select Save As, and choose the PNG format. Remember to use PNG because it supports transparency, whereas JPEG does not. Another method is to go to File, then Export, and select Save for Web. Opt for PNG 24 and ensure that the transparency option is checked. To zoom in or out, use the plus and minus icons. You can also adjust the image size if you wish to export it at a reduced scale. When you're satisfied, click Save. It's important to note that using this export option will save the image at 72 pixels per inch, regardless of whether your document is set at 300 pixels per inch. If you want to maintain the PPI, use the Save As method I demonstrated earlier. Since I only used the Export and Save As commands without actually saving changes, I can use the Revert option to bring the image back to its original state. Let's delve into the selection tools a bit. The first one we'll discuss is the rectangular Marquee tool, which lets you select a rectangular region within an image. Most selection tools have additional options at the top. The first option is New Selection, ensuring that every time you drag out a rectangle, it creates a new selection area. The next option is Add to Selection. This function allows you to expand your current selection by adding more areas to it without losing the initial selected area. The third option is Subtract from Selection. This function lets you remove certain parts from your current selection, narrowing down the selected area. The last option is Intersect with Selection. This function allows you to create a new selection based on the overlapping area of your current selection and a new selection you make. Here are a few actions you can take with a selection. One option is to click on the layer mask, which will create a mask based on your selection. Another option is to head to Edit, then copy and paste the selected portion of the image. You can use the shortcuts Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V for these actions. You can also use Ctrl+J, which essentially does the same thing. It jumps or copies the selected area to a new layer. You can also apply adjustments to that specific selection, such as levels, brightness, color balance, and more. The Elliptical Marquee tool lets you select oval or circular regions within an image. Interestingly, you can mix and match different selection tools, adding or subtracting areas to craft the ideal selection. The next tool is the Lasso Tool, which allows you to create freeform selections around an area of an image. The Polygonal Lasso Tool lets you make straight-edged selections by clicking point to point to create a polygon. You need to close your selections. You'll notice a small circle next to the cursor indicating the starting point. If you click there, it will close the selection. The next tool we're looking at is the Magnetic Lasso Tool. It automatically sticks to the edges of contrasting objects as you trace them, simplifying the selection of intricate shapes. If you head in the wrong direction while using it, you can easily backtrack a few steps by pressing the backspace key. Once again, the small circle will appear, signaling that you're nearing the point to close the selection. I've already introduced you to the Object Selection tool earlier. The Quick Selection tool allows you to paint over an area of an image, and it automatically selects similar adjacent pixels, making it easy to select larger regions that have consistent colors or tones. Use the brush with the plus and minus signs to add to or subtract from the selection. You can use the square bracket keys to adjust the brush size, just as you would with any other brush tool. Let's add a layer mask. As you can see now, we have a hole where the flower is because we selected the exterior of the flower. To invert that, we can use Ctrl+I command. You can also toggle the mask on and off as needed using Disable Mask and Enable Mask. If you Alt-click on the layer mask, it will display largely on the screen, making it easier to identify any errors. If you decide the mask is unnecessary, you can simply delete it. The Magic Wand tool allows you to select areas of an image based on color similarity with just a single click. Tolerance determines the range of color values the Magic Wand or similar tools will select. A lower value selects colors very similar to the click point, while a higher value includes a broader range of colors. Also, take a look at the Select menu. It offers options like Select All, Deselect, Reselect, and Inverse the selection. Additionally, you can expand or contract your selection by a specified number of pixels, determining how much you want to adjust the size of your selection. Let's apply what we've learned so far. I have this image of a dragon, and we'll explore how to remove its background. Start by using the Object Selection tool and click once on the dragon. After that, apply a layer mask. Next, add a solid color layer and position it below the dragon to preview how it appears. By switching the color, you can more easily identify any imperfections or mistakes in the mask. Select the mask, and when you click on any selection tool, you should notice a button labeled Select and Mask. Inside the Select and Mask workspace, there are numerous options available. One of my favorites is Shift Edge, which lets you modify the border of a selection, moving it either inward or outward. You have the ability to shrink or broaden the edge by a certain percentage. Additionally, experiment with settings like contrast, feather, and radius to refine and enhance the outline of your mask. A layer mask is a powerful tool in image editing. Let's break it down. Using a hard edge brush, we can modify the mask directly. The colors black and white are used to paint on the mask. Here's a simple way to remember it. Black conceals. When you paint with black on the mask, you're essentially hiding or concealing parts of the layer. White reveals. Conversely, painting with white reveals or brings back parts of the layer that may have been concealed. A layer mask is incredibly versatile because it provides non-destructive editing. Think of it like a protective barrier over your original content. You can tweak, adjust, and change the visible portions of your layer as much as you want without ever touching the actual layer itself. Once you're satisfied with your mask, you can apply it and then remove the background layer that we used for checking. Save it as a PNG file. In a moment, we can compare and see the transformation, how the image looked originally and how it appears now after our edits. Let's work on another project, featuring a cute gnome this time. But before diving into that, let me guide you on how you can learn about each tool and its functions directly within Photoshop. If you hover over a selection tool, an info tooltip should pop up. This tooltip not only provides a shortcut key and details about the tool but also comes with a play button. By clicking on that, you can watch the tool in action and see it being used. Isn't that a nifty feature? Let's apply our knowledge. Begin by using the Object Selection tool and click on the gnome. Next, add a layer mask. After that, introduce a solid color layer and position it beneath the gnome. This will allow us to test the gnome against various colors and more effortlessly identify any errors in our masking. With the mask selected, I'll use a hard brush set to black. I'll then paint over the mask on the section of the hand that I want to hide or remove. Remember, painting with black on a mask hides that portion, while painting with white reveals it. Next, I'll apply the mask. Then, I'll navigate to Layer, choose Matting, and use the Defringe function to eliminate that slight white border or contour around the gnome. Here's an additional useful tip for you. The trim feature in Photoshop helps you eliminate unnecessary external parts of an image. It works by detecting transparent areas, edge colors, or a mix of the two, ensuring that you're left with only the vital portions of your image. This is especially handy for reducing file sizes and focusing on the main content of your graphics. Alright, let's tackle a more challenging task. When dealing with complex backgrounds like numerous plants or patterns, extracting the main subject, in this case, the bunny, becomes trickier. But with patience and the right tools, we can achieve a clean selection. Let's dive into it. The Object Selection tool may struggle with intricate backgrounds where the subject and background share similar textures or colors. The magnetic lasso tool can help to some extent as it clings to the edges of contrasting elements, but it might not provide the level of precision needed in complex scenarios. One versatile tool, found in numerous design programs, is the pen tool. It might require a bit of practice to master, but once you get the hang of it, you can outline virtually any shape. I prefer using it with the shape mode set to no fill and no stroke. Begin by creating a new layer, and then you can start tracing out the shape of the bunny. Since our shape is entirely black, there might be a point where we can't see the underlying details of the bunny. To work around this, we can reduce the shape's opacity, allowing us to see behind it and continue tracing accurately. To continue tracing with the pen tool, click on the last point you placed in the path. You'll notice a tiny line or a tail appearing next to the cursor, indicating that you're extending the existing path. To complete your shape, you need to close the path. You'll observe a small circle next to the cursor, indicating that clicking there will close and seal the path you've been drawing. For the space between the legs that also needs to be cut out, you can create a new layer and trace that particular area with the pen tool. This will help in refining the final shape of the bunny. Hold down the Control key and select both shape layers. After selecting, right-click and choose Merge Shapes. Now, grab the Path Selection tool, which can be identified by its black cursor icon. Use it to select that small section between the bunny's legs. Once selected, head to the options bar at the top and choose Subtract Front Shape. Afterwards, select Merge Shape Components to combine everything, leaving you with a single unified shape. Double-click on the background layer to turn it into a regular layer. Next, drag the shape layer below the bunny layer. If you hold down the Alt key and hover your cursor between the two layers, an icon with a downward pointing arrow will appear. Click when you see this icon, and it will create a clipping mask. This feature lets the top layer adopt the shape of the layer directly beneath it, meaning the bottom layer effectively serves as a mask that sets the visible borders of the layer on top. One of the main benefits of using a clipping mask in conjunction with a shape is the flexibility it offers. By using the Direct Selection tool, represented by the white cursor, you can modify the shape even after it's been set. To do this, first select the shape layer. Once selected, you can click and drag the individual anchor points on the path to adjust the shape as needed, making the mask more precise or altering it to fit your design preference. When you select both layers and use the Merge Layers function, it consolidates those layers into one. As a result, the contents of the merged layers will appear as a single cohesive image. This can be especially useful when you want to simplify your layer panel or treat multiple elements as a single entity for further edits. However, once merged, remember that you can't easily edit the individual layers separately anymore, so always ensure it's the desired step before proceeding. It might also be a good idea to keep a backup or duplicate of the original layers in case you need them later. You can drag all these transparent PNG images onto other illustrations or backgrounds. By doing so, you can craft more intricate and layered illustrations, allowing for greater creativity and customization. That wraps up our tutorial for today. I hope you found it helpful and are excited to put these techniques into practice. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.